Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Rocky Top Rewind. I am Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs. As always, a big thank you to our presenting sponsor every single Sunday night during football season. That is Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T and Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, and personal injury as well. If you have a need, you can pick up the phone today. Give them a free consultation at 423-245-4185. 423-245-4185 or online at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. Spivey King and Spivey LLP, proud presenting sponsors of the Rocky Top Rewind. Not a good weekend for Tennessee. That is stating the obvious. So over the next hour or so, please put in your comments in the live chat. I'm going to star them throughout the show. We're going to work to try to get in as many questions as we can, Brent. Just kind of talk it out. Obviously, that's not the outcome that I think any of us expected. Tennessee has some issues on the offensive side of the football. Tennessee loses a game, but it is important to remember that with the 12-team college football playoff era, Tennessee still controls its own destiny. Not to say that it's going to be easy, because it won't be easy, but you're coming home. You have some winnable games, of course, and this one loss doesn't define your season right now. How you respond to it will, but right now that one loss does not. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I just think right now for me, it's let's shelf all the playoff discussion. Could they get in with two? Could they get in with three? Who's this? Who's that? I just don't think that that's I just don't think that that's makes any sense right now. That's to me not the right approach. I don't think that's Tennessee's approach. The fans can have that, and I'm not saying you can't get in. I'm just saying right now you got to figure out how to score some points. You got to figure out how to protect the quarterback. You got to figure out how to eliminate the mistakes that you're making, the penalties, and those types of things. And you got to get ready to play a Florida team. And I've said this a couple of different places. They're going to sit there and go, same old Tennessee. I mean, Florida always beats Tennessee. They always find a way to beat Tennessee. Yeah, we're underdog, but we always find a way to beat Tennessee. So I think that if you're Tennessee, it has to be about you, and you've got to figure some things out and go from there. And some of that is schematically, you've got to figure out some stuff. You've got to help the quarterback. Sure would be nice to get into tempo, because I think if you could get into tempo, you got to win first down to do that and get the sticks moving. And you got to have to get to the line of scrimmage. I mean, your tackle can't be laying on the ground after every play and casually getting back to the line. You got to go. I think that would eliminate some of the cat and mouse game that Nico's trying to figure out right now with how teams are playing them. And listen, a lot of teams are playing Tennessee with odd fronts, kind of ballooning that coverage in the back, some 3 high safety, some 2 high safety. I think they're disguising what some stuff looks like. And I think Nico's trying to figure it out, Eric. And I think that's tough. I mean, I think there's a lot of structure stuff that looks one way, and then when the ball snaps, it ends up being something else. Sometimes you get it right. When you do, you pop a long run, right? And you get going. But then when you don't get it right, nobody's open in the passing game, or they brought a safety downhill and a run blitz, and you run right into a run blitz, and you got a 1-yard gain or a 2-yard gain, and now you're facing yourself in second long or third long.
Yeah, no doubt. There was a lot of good on the defensive side of the football yesterday. I mean, was the defense perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. The defense more than played well enough to win this football game, and the defense was asked on 3 or 4 consecutive drives there in the fourth quarter, like, hey, need another stop, and you can't continue to put your defense in that situation. But we're going to talk about it all. But we can start out on the offense side of the football.
Yeah,
and I mean,
let's just roll through them here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to know what's wrong with the offense, and kind of going back to what you were saying. I mean, I think right now, and you wrote about this, and I wrote about this. It's obvious if you're watching Tennessee football, Tennessee has a protection problem right now. Okay, and sure, a lot of that's on the offensive line. If you watched the game last night, and specifically if you go back and rewatch it, it wasn't just the offensive line. It was Tennessee's running backs, it was Tennessee's tight ends. Brent, I don't know how you view this. I think the first sack of the football game, or maybe it was the second sack, I can't remember, might have been a coverage sack. Like, get rid of the football, Nico. Just get rid of it, okay? But there were 2 plays where Deshaun Bishop, one where he just, misses block. Second one where he didn't know who he's going to block, and he wasn't even looking to the right side. They overloaded the right side, and Nico got sacked. There was another point in time where Dylan Sampson and Javonte Spraggins didn't quite know which guy they were going to get. And so when you had that odd front, and they're stemming, which means they're moving, and they're moving on the snap or right before the snap, And it's creating some of those looks to where it's hard for the center to start as ID, saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then so on and so forth, all the way back to the running back. And when you're on the road and it's loud and that communication's kind of halted, you got to find a way. Okay, you got to find a way. But right now, I think that's some of the issues in those odd fronts and that stack that obviously Missouri's done in the past, and NC State did. Tennessee did okay in that regard, but did not do well against Arkansas last night. But Tennessee's got to protect, and until Tennessee can protect, those wide splits, those long developing plays, those aren't helping Nico. And so I think the play calling as well, coupled with what you have right now, which is a protection problem, the play calling is not helping Nico, and sometimes Nico's not helping himself. There's a lot going on here, but it starts up front.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that it does. And I think, listen, if you're playing Tennessee, you have to make a decision. Can we install something brand new for that week and execute it really well? Okay. And Arkansas basically did. I think Arkansas did stuff on Saturday night that they have not done all year long. To their credit, they were able to execute it. I go back and you look at that game and you look at the stats. Okay. I think we'll all agree Tennessee did not throw Tennessee didn't throw a bunch of deep shots. There was not a lot of one-on-ones. Yet Danico Slaughter and the safety combined for 15 tackles. Okay, you go back to Oklahoma and Spears Jennings, whichever his name was, I can't remember. Yeah. He had 13 tackles. Those guys are kind of roaming around as nickel guys. And what you have to determine if you're Cooper Mays and you're Nico is, are they in the box or are they not in the box? What does it look like? What are they declaring, or are they just kind of hanging and we're trying to get? If I guess right, I got a chance for a big one. If I get it wrong, then I run ourselves into second and long or third and long, right? So I think teams have done a nice job of making it hard on the quarterback to try to figure out where people are coming from. Now, if you get to play fast, it's harder for guys to get lined up. It's harder for guys to show that. There's kind of two ways to play to play Tennessee. There's more than two ways, but there's kind of two ways that you can play it this way, with basically three safeties and where's the nickel, where's the safety, are they in the box, are they out of the box, what are they showing? Or you can say, my front six, okay, my 3-3 stack, I was good enough to handle you guys up front. And we'll play man on the outside. We'll grab, tug, hold. We'll play some zone stuff, get a little safety help over the top, and we'll play you like Georgia played. We'll play it like Georgia's played it, you know? And right now, not a lot of people have had Georgia's talent the last few years, and people have figured out that you're going to do some of the stuff. Now, again, pace of play negates it. And I think at times in 22, Tennessee said, you know what? I don't care if you're in the box or not. I'm just going to throw it over your head. Okay? I don't – how many guys are going to get open that you can throw it over their head right now? You know? I mean, Jalen Hyatt was fast, and you just say, okay, we're going to go throw it over their head. Tennessee's not doing that. Is that something that we see out of Tennessee? That's hard to imagine doing right now, Eric, because we don't know what the injury status is for Brew McCoy and Squirrel White. So now you may be back into two tight end stuff, and structurally you're trying to handle some things differently that way. So really interesting week in terms of prep and trying to figure out how Florida's going to play you, and adjusting to it very, very quickly if you can.
Were you surprised at the lack of 12 last night? I mean, somebody during the game thread, I mean, there's a lot of things we miss in live action, right? And somebody was talking about 12 personnel, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, maybe they ran it for a brief series or a play or two here, but I don't remember much 12 personnel, and certainly on rewatch, they did not run it, you know, hardly at all. Miles Kitselman dominated the tight end snaps. Holden Stays played some, but for them to have that wrinkle, and I think going into the game, and Austin talked about this on the pregame 2-minute drill, and that he had been told, he had heard, like, hey, they're going to go a lot of 11 personnel. That's the game plan they like going into this game, and that's fine. That's Tennessee's base offense, 11 personnel. It might look like 4 wides, even if you're split out, but you got a tight end out there, tight end in the back. But in a game to where you're really struggling to protect your quarterback, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go some 12 personnel. Now, early in the game when they had that sack, there was a tight end in there helping out, and he, you know, missed a block. But I'm kind of surprised they didn't roll a little bit more with 12, just seeing how ineffective the offense was overall, not just for the first half, but even after they marched down the field and scored those 2 touchdowns. After that, it was punt, turnover on downs. Then the game, I'm kind of surprised they didn't mix some things up. Were you?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, again, I give Arkansas credit. I think they did
Yeah.
some things defensively that they had not shown, and Tennessee had a hard time adjusting to it and handling it that way. I think their game plan was good. I don't, maybe they just got it right. And what I was talking about earlier to start the second half, but I think because you threw some quick out stuff, those little stop routes and things out there, you kind of softened that up a little bit in the inside, um, and go from there. So I was a little surprised at where they were. I was surprised it took them that long to get into something that would get the run game going. I mean, it took you halftime adjustments to get there instead of getting that done, in the first half. I think it felt like, and this is probably the feeling because it was so helter skelter at the end of the game, Eric. It felt like that game was being played about 1,000 miles an hour on the Tennessee sideline.
No.
Everything was super fast. Tennessee was late getting a defensive guy on the field. They made some mistakes and some critical errors. And Nico seemed like he was kind of all over the place a little bit at times. And offensive line, they couldn't get some of the communication stuff down that they needed to. It felt like that game was going way too fast for Tennessee last night on all facets of it.
Continue to send in your questions. We'll do our best to work through as the show goes on. Also, Price will join us here at about 8:40. Dustin chimes in with the super chat. Dustin, we really appreciate you. He asks, since Butch Jones' era, we've had good teams. There's always seems to be that game every year when we lose to a team we shouldn't. That's the difference between good and great programs. Thoughts? Absolutely, Brent. This is the third straight year that Tennessee has lost to an unranked opponent on the road. South Carolina in 22, of course, Florida last year. This year, Arkansas. I think there's, Tennessee got a road win over a ranked opponent in Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. But Tennessee has some issues playing on the road, and Tennessee has some issues of letting up and not winning and handling games that it should have. Tennessee was a 13.5-point favorite in this football game. But yeah, I completely agree. I mean, being able to handle your business, that's what great teams do, home or away. And Tennessee kind of has an issue with that sometimes, at least once a year.
Well, and I think that um, you have to find a way. It's kind of like a pitcher. Okay. The manager says, hey, man, I need 7 innings from you today. And you go out there and you get into the second or third inning and you just don't have your stuff. How do you find a way to creatively get to where you need to get to? Because that's what the managers ask you to do, even though you don't have your best stuff. Or a golfer, to borrow an Austin Price analogy, you're struggling to hit the fairway and you're a little bit off here. How do you find a way to grind through and get to the finish line with a good round? Or to get to the seventh inning as your manager asks you to? You have to find, if you're going to be a championship, if you're going to be championship caliber teams, you have to find ways to win on days when it's just not going well. And there was I took a lot away from the Oklahoma win because I thought Tennessee did that, right? Okay. They couldn't protect, they got issues, they get the lead. Josh Heupel manages the game well. They put it on the defense. The defense does what it needs to do to win the football game. Okay, so yesterday, the defense, you put it on your defense again. And listen, the defense only gave up, it would have been 16 points, I guess, on a field goal if you didn't let them just walk into the end zone to give yourself a chance to win at the end. Which you say, okay, that's enough to win the game. And it is. Okay, but the defense didn't have their A game yesterday. Okay, they weren't locating their pitches very well. I mean, they weren't getting the ground ball out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they gave up 7 plays of 20 yards or more.
Yeah.
They completely busted on a route that should have been a touchdown. Arkansas dropped a touchdown. I think Tennessee's defense played really hard. I don't think they played particularly smart. They got exposed in the middle of the field with their zones coverage and throwing it in the middle. So you don't have your best stuff. Offense, help us get home. We helped you get home 2 weeks ago. Help us get home. Okay? I mean, make a couple of first downs here and help us get out of this thing, and we'll all get back to the house and go, all right, we didn't have our best. And again, Dylan Sampson says afterwards, too laissez-faire, or whatever the phrase that he used about practice during the open day. I mean, that's not the comment you want to hear from a leader. He's not making that up because he's one of the leaders on the football team. That's not a flippant comment. But when you don't have your best, how do you find a way to win? That's what makes what Nick Saban did at Alabama so unbelievable, because they could find a way to win when it wasn't going great. I think Philip Fulmer did a good job of that at points and times in his career, where they just kind of gutted it out and found a way to win some games. That's what teams that are going to compete for championships, you got to be able to do that. Tennessee's going to have another one of these. It may be this week against Florida. It may be Kentucky. Who knows where it's going to be? There's going to be another game where you're going to have to execute the 4-minute offense to put a game away. You're going to have to do something in the fourth quarter to bail out one side of the ball. Can you do that? They did it at Oklahoma. They didn't do it last night.
Plenty more to discuss. We're going to take plenty more of your questions as we continue on until 9 o'clock Eastern time here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Every Sunday night during football season, you can catch us right here on the Volquest.com YouTube channel. Want to ask you about coaching. Points in this football game that I didn't think were handled very well. And, of course, let's visit the last play of the game with Nico. That's coming up, plus more of your questions here. But first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That's T.N. Charlie Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injuries, such as, DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, accidents, car wrecks, all that and more. 80 years of combined experience. Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP provides representation throughout the state and federal courts of Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. Practice has been in place for 43 years. This specific partnership of Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, and Richard A. Spivey has been in place since 2012. Partners who are energized and ready for today's legal demands. They practice primarily in Northeast Tennessee, of the Tennessee of Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas. Whether you're injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or have been accused of a crime, Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP is here to help you. So if you have a need at all, you want a free consultation, pick up the phone. Dial 423-245-4185. Again, that phone number, it is 423-245-4185 for a free consultation, or visit them online at Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP. Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP. Give them a call today if you have the need, and a big thank you to them for being the presenting sponsor of the Rocky Top Rewind. Welcome back into the Rocky Top Rewind every Sunday night here on the Volquest.com YouTube channel. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs. Tennessee, a 19-14 loser at Arkansas, falling to 4-1 on the season, 1-1 in SEC play. Coming back for a long stretch here, some important games. You got Florida at home this weekend. You got Alabama coming up after that. Kentucky's on the schedule. Got a bye week, Mississippi State, so on and so forth. Before you head to Georgia in the month of November, so a lot going on here. But Tennessee does fall to Arkansas 19-14. Brent, I want to ask you, again, let me just put this out there. Hindsight's 20/20. Okay. Sure. I'm not a coach, so it's easy for me to sit here and say, this did wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong. But there were a couple of things in this football game where I'm just like, what's going on? The big one that stands out to me, obviously, is not calling a timeout, letting about 20 seconds roll off the clock after the Dante Thornton big gain there on that final possession that got him on down there. I mean, I was doing the rewatch, and they didn't even address it on the TV because they were showing the replay. But 15 to 20 seconds were lost in that situation. I thought points in times, obviously, the offensive play calling wasn't helping the situation at hand with the offense and not being able to protect. I thought the previous offensive series before that, they were trying to go tempo, then they weren't going tempo, then they were trying to go tempo, but man, they were snapping it sometimes with 30 seconds on the play clock, and it's like, man, you need to milk this a little bit, right? I mean, you need to try to take some time off here. Obviously, Jordan Ross, that's I'm putting that on him. That was not on coaching. That was a punt safe. That was not the design, but obviously that was that it all falls back on coaching essentially. So, what did you think about the coaching in this football game? And then, of course, the last play of the game, Nico. Obviously, that's one he wants to have back. We saw that with Joe Milton in 2021, but Tennessee had a timeout right before that. And maybe it was communicated, but I mean, obviously it's like, hey, you got to throw that football. This is the last play of the game. You had 6 seconds on the clock. Brent, tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't think they had time to do literally anything else. This was it. You got to throw it to the end zone. And of course that didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, and then Joe and Nico said afterwards that, the ball was slipping out of his hand or was slippery or something. And I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, shot put it. I mean, get it to the end zone and give yourself a chance. Part of the problem with that play too, Eric, is he got flushed right. All of his receivers were on the left. He had one receiver coming his way. Any throw was going to be back across his body into the middle of the field. You've got to throw that ball and see what happens. That's a rookie mistake. And again, that's a situation where you just, I mean, you can't do that. And I mean, you have to know it's the last thing you told him is 6 seconds. Like you can't, you got to get this done. I mean, so I don't think that I don't think they managed things well. And I don't know communication, sideline communication versus up top communication. Somebody's got to be telling the head coach after the 42-yard gain, we could go timeout here. Timeout. Because he's thinking next play, all right, we're going. And again, I go back to it felt like it was 1,000 miles an hour. That felt like chaos watching that on the sideline. Heupel swinging, go. I mean, you're trying to get offensive linemen 45 yards down the field to get lined up. Nico's trying to figure out what's next. I mean, that deal was just really chaotic. Time's of the most important thing you have there. Save the time. I think that was a I just don't think they managed. I don't think he managed that part well. I would have called timeout there. I was a little surprised they didn't try the long field goal at the end of the half because watching pregame warmups, he hit it pretty well.
Yeah, the penalty there. That penalty was it was a killer, man.
I thought they might roll out Tuberville and just see if he could just crank one.
Oh, I agree. I mean, where you were in the game, like you were being shut out anyway. So yeah,
but I mean, it's one of those things like. Okay, I mean, Jordan Ross, freshman, make a mistake. I mean, you can't make that mistake. Like, I mean, and obviously he figured it out for the next one because on the next punt, he took 2 steps and stopped.
Yeah.
Which is what he was supposed to do on the first one. I mean, okay, young player, but that's a young player you believe in. That's a young player you put out there. You got to make sure your young player knows what he's doing. Squirrel White's got to catch the punt. I mean, those 20 to 25 yards were just huge. And listen, busts are going to happen. Right, Arian Carter had a big bust coming off the goal line and gave that swing pass, a first down deal there. It was a big play. And listen, they're 18 to 22-year-old. You got some young guys. They're going to miss things. Nico's going to miss open receivers. You're going to make some bust out there. Nobody's playing perfect, but you can't continually shoot yourself in the foot. All week long what your opening play call is going to be, right? I mean, you got an idea. I mean, the play goes away from you. You can't be downfield. It's not even RPO. Like you don't even have to block on that play because he's rolling away from you. And listen, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not trying, but they just did not play very smart football. And I say they, meaning I don't think from the coaching staff through the players, I don't think they played very smart. Was that due to the open date? I don't know. But the bottom line is they're going to have to play smarter than that if they're going to win some of these games here this next month.
Yeah, I thought that was a great play design. I thought that was a really, really good opening play. Nico executed it, looked really well doing it, rolling out, throwing on the run, moving the chains, and then, just a silly penalty brings it back. I thought Lance Hurd looked like a guy that hadn't played in a month. I thought John Campbell made some really bad football plays. And again, we're sitting here nitpicking. Tennessee lost a football game. It's our jobs, and I'm not trying to pile on, but Again, I thought the tackles played really bad, and the Pro Football Focus grades, which take it or leave it, is what it is. It's not everything, but it was reflective in that. And again, if you can't protect, then you need to do things that kind of, I just think in-game adjustments. Like Tennessee obviously had a clear plan. I mean, you've seen that going into games offensively. NC State identity, 12 personnel. We're going to work this, hammer this, and they did it, and it was great. Tennessee goes in with certain game plans. I think in-game adjustments at times, they're slow, or it just never happens. And I thought yesterday was a perfect case of you didn't make many adjustments, or you were too late to make those adjustments. I mean, the splits. I understand splits are such a huge part of this offense, and you got Halsey that's been in this offense forever, and Heupel, this is his offense. But my gosh, when Nico doesn't have time to do anything, you can't wait for those things to develop. That's my biggest thing with this. I'll get off it, but that was kind of frustrating just watching. It was especially frustrating on rewatch as well.
Well, I think the thing that you have to do if you're Josh Heupel and you're Joey Halsley, you've got to sit here and you should have spent today going, okay, obviously we're not what we thought we were going to be able to be with where we are in pass protection right now. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to the waiver wire and getting a guy. This is who we've got. This is who we believe in. This is who we're going to play. They've got to play better. They can play better. Okay, we agree with that. But now how do we help them? Okay, and sometimes you got to just say, hey, you know what? We're going to do some things that we don't normally do or don't really care to do. but if you can't protect, the deep square end's not going to be there. No. Now, if you want to throw a takeoff and throw it up for grabs and see what happens, that can be there. But you can't have that long developing deep square end if you can't protect very well. I think you got to look at getting Nico on the move. You got to roll him more, get him away from traffic, protect him a little bit better that way. And then I think you've got to run. I think you've got to run him. I think you've got to run him more. I mean, I don't know what you're waiting on. I understand there's risk of getting a guy hurt or whatever, but if that's a part of what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. I want to go back to Ben's question there for just a second. I don't know if you can still pull that up. For everyone melting down, Alabama was the number one team in the country, had the worst loss of the season. They did. But what made matters worse for Tennessee is the afternoon opened up for you just brilliantly.
Yep.
It was from a putting yourself in a position to be in a playoff, to help your playoff chances. It opened wide open. You got the Missouri loss you needed. Okay. You had Ole Miss lose the week before. Alabama loses. Okay. You just have things sort of falling into place for you a little bit. Go take care of business. And Tennessee didn't do that because they didn't play well. Now, again, I'm sitting here talking about playoff. That's not where Tennessee's focus could be. It was a missed opportunity yesterday, is my point. The Alabama loss was certainly worse. Okay. Although I'll say this, I think Vanderbilt probably beats Arkansas. That's a salty little Vanderbilt team. That quarterback's pretty good. I'm not sure Vanderbilt doesn't beat Arkansas. So, but that's a bad loss for Alabama. And Kalen DeBoer learned what this league's about. You better show up every day.
Got a lot of questions here. We're going to roll through them. Sure. We've got a couple of questions about Alex Golesh. This is one of several. And we were asked this a little bit last year, and we've been asked this at points in times, but growing pains, Joey Halsley, Josh Heupel. I mean, Alex Golesh was very valuable to this ball club, no doubt about it. Is this team missing him a whole lot this year, or is it a matter of you got to go out and game plan to execute?
Well, I think you got to go out and execute and game plan. I don't know how much that they're missing Alex Golesh's sitting in a room on Tuesday night drawing up ball plays for you.
Because, sorry to cut you off, but like Halsey was doing that. Ellerby does that and has been every week.
Yeah, everybody's in the room. I do think where you miss Golesh was bullish. He was bullish.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. And this is what we're going to do. And I think that, there were probably sometimes players didn't like him. But I think when you talk about standard and everybody's talking about standard, I think he was an offensive guy that was just a little edgy. I'm not sure who their edgy guy is on offense. We know who it is on defense, right? But I'm not sure they've got that. I think they missed that more than they do. Mangolish is coming to the table with, this scheme to beat a team that nobody's thought of before, because they do that collaboratively. I just think Golish was a little bit more brash, a little bit more stern, and kind of bullish on things, which they probably missed that a little bit. I don't think that's the end all be all to it. I mean, I don't think you can sit here and go, well, the whole problem is, they don't have Alex Golish there.
No.
But at the same time, too, since he's been gone, you haven't been nearly as good offensively as you were in 22. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Tennessee does. Do they still try to protect Nico and make everything a perfect call, or is there a little bit of, hey, let's roll? Let's get going. Let's play. Kind of turn it loose and take more chances. And if we turn it over, we turn it over. But let's go play and not play. I won't say conservative, but not try to be in the perfect play every play.
Yeah, and briefly going back to kind of what you were talking about a couple moments ago, like it's that risk, right? It's if you run Nico, you open him up to taking extra shots. If he gets hurt, that's awful, because I mean you have gas behind you. But
how many times is he getting knocked down a game?
Yeah, I mean he's getting hit already, and he's it's not like he doesn't have the green light to, if things break down, to go and make a play, because he's doing that. If you call design run plays with Nico to jumpstart something, like, okay, what we're doing right now is not working. They're coming up tough off the edge. Let's run a draw. Like, let's just run a draw, or let's run a straight QB power, or whatever the case is. I'm all for that. And they did that a little bit in the NC State game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think that he should have 12 carries a game.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think when it's third and 4, and you need to make a play,
go get it.
Third and 7. And you want to get it to fourth down manageable, why not? I mean, he's getting popped every game the way it is now. I mean, I don't. Yeah, there's a risk there, but I mean, you can't. What do you coach it? I mean, you didn't win last night. Now, I'm not saying if you run him, you would have won the game, but are you playing your full hand? You better play your full hand, because you're playing Florida, who's won 2 straight, who's gotten better on the defensive front and stopping the run a little bit last week. Now, they were not very good against Mississippi State, but we'll see. I mean, they're sitting there going, well, we know what Tennessee's going to be about. You're going to play Alabama. You're going to play Kentucky. You're going to play Georgia. I mean, you saved him for the Volquest Bowl in Tampa? I mean, like, again, don't run him 15 times a game, but it's okay to run him on critical situations the way you did with Hendon Hooker. And I know Hendon got hurt. I know what everybody says there, but that was a non-contact deal, right? I mean, it's a risk you play when you play football. I mean, I just think you got to give him some opportunities, because I think that's an integral part of what you want to do offensively as a quarterback's legs.
Tournament Bracket chimes in and said, disappointed in the receivers. Where was the yak? That's yards after catch. Step up, Brew. Brazel and witness protection. Squirrel is slow. You wrote about Brazel, and we were all high on Brazel. He's not been a big factor so far. Brew got a little bit banged up there in the second half, came back in, but he's going to be dealing with some stuff. Squirrel went out a little bit. Chaz Nimrod, I thought, made a really nice contested catch late in the football game on third down that I liked. Mike Matthews got everybody clamoring for Mike Matthews. He got 15 snaps last night. He's probably going to get more moving forward, depending on these injuries. Dante Thornton, again, I think they need to work him in a little bit more. He had the big catch down the field that last drive. He had the first catch of the football game, got the start. Of course, the penalty got called back. Sure, there's protection issues. Nico's not helping himself out sometimes, because, I mean, he did not play well yesterday. We talked about this in the post-game mini-pod. The receivers as well, not a whole lot of separation. Your thoughts on the receivers as a group so far through 5 games?
Well, and again, I'm not a smart enough football guy to know. I mean, how much man stuff are they getting? How much of this is zone stuff? How much of it is too slow developing to give it a shot to get into the window before you get the quarterback hit? Is Tennessee's receivers reading the choice routes right? I certainly would like for Nico to have a place to go with the football when blitz is coming.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of hots there to give him an opportunity, on some blitz beaters that way. They've got to play better. I mean, Kelsey Pope said that this week. They've got to play better. I think, and I wrote this in 10 things I think I learned. I think 12 personnel is coming in big time here the next couple of weeks. I mean, we'll see what Squirrel looks like, but that did not look good at the end of the game. It's hard for me to sit here and say he'll be absolutely 100% good to go this week. Maybe he will be, but that one, I mean, that looked like a shoulder deal. We'll see what that looks, what that is, when we get later in the week. You mentioned Brew. It looked like he had a soft cast or of some kind or something on at the end of the game. So if you're down those two guys, you're probably playing two tights with two receivers, and playing Brazel out there, Thornton out there, Mike Matthews, Chaz Nimrod out there is probably where you're at with your receiver core, and you're probably in more two tights than you are in three receiver sets. Now, maybe that's not what they do, but to me, that would be a direction I think they would go.
Cassie, 12 personnel is one tight end, one running back, two tight ends. So whenever they have Kitzelman stays on the field at the same time, they take a receiver out. 11 personnel just means one tight end, one running back. So that's Tennessee's base. It's always the first number is the running back, the second number is the tight ends. So if they go 10, typically that's just four wides, one running back, and if they go empty, of course, it's nothing there.
Hey, hit Rusty's question there just for a second about Danny White going to the league office, about the holding. Yeah, I mean, I thought Arkansas held. I think Tennessee held some. That was a physical game, and those receivers or those officials let them play. Now they missed a clear one on Brew when I think he was going to do a double move. That was a bad miss. But inside, was there holding? Yeah, there was. I bet both teams done, and they called one holding penalty. Right? Didn't Tennessee get one hold?
John Campbell got called for holding, and he got called for hands in the face on, I want to say it was back-to-back plays.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's not a hold if you put your hand up in the face mask of somebody there. Yeah, I mean, again, look, they grabbed James Pierce. They missed him. They were not going to call a bunch of holds is what they were. I mean, again, go finish, right? On 2nd and 7 and Squirrel's coming across the middle, that's day one install throw. Make that throw. Don't make him dive to the ground to try to make that catch there. If you hit him, he's not going to go to the house, but he's going to get 12 yards, first down, move the sticks, 2 more minutes come off the clock. Or they got to use their timeouts. Execute. Make those plays there. Look, you can go back every game and go, man, there's a bunch of holding. They didn't call a pass interference penalty. I don't think they called a hold on a DB all night long. No. They just said, you know what? More, it's hand-to-hand combat. Y'all go for it. And that's essentially what that game ended up being.
Again, hindsight's 20/20. Let's go back to the play after the chunk play down to Thornton there. Gain of 42 yards. It was the play where they should have called a timeout before they wasted all that time. He threw it over the middle of the Nimrod. It looked like, double coverage or whatever. Your tight end, it looked like was open to the left, and we can't. I want to say in real time he was open. I went back and tried to see it on the replay. You don't get a good look, but you kind of see Sampson. Somebody asked about checkdowns. You saw Sampson creeping out over there. Sampson might have been wide open there. Yeah. So like for Nico in that situation, it looked like he was zoned in, knowing where he wanted to go. Where he had 2 other options, and of course he missed. Man, he missed Kitzelman on the play after that or whatever that could have been a touchdown too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that pocket, he got a pretty clean pocket, and he just stayed in that pocket and stepped up and threw it into traffic and didn't see the field, and that's a young player mistake. There again, I think that everything felt really rushed right there. The head coach is screaming, "Go, go, 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 go!" He catches a snap, step, throw, clock's running. We got all this stuff going on. I just would have liked to have seen the timeout. Everybody come over and get a drink of water. Let's put our play sheet up over our mouth and let's have a conversation about what we're going to do here. Let's get a couple of concepts that Nico likes. What do you feel? What do you like? What are you feeling out there? Let's get a couple plays called and figure out what we're going to do there and have 15 more seconds to play with there at the end of the game. You make a big play like that, everybody's jazzed up, and then it was just helter-skelter from that moment on. But, yeah, I mean, I think Sampson was open. But here's what I don't know what Nico's reads were on all those plays. I don't know if that was a single read deal. I don't know if he just completely missed him. I don't know if it was one half of the field. That's why I'm hesitant about being overly critical. I can look at you and tell you Squirrel White should have fielded the punt, but I don't know what all of the protection calls are up front, and I don't know what Nico's progression is in the reads and all those types of things there. I'm just saying that stretch of plays there to close out the game, Austin Price felt like it was going about 136,000 miles an hour at that point in time for everybody on the sideline, for Nico in the huddle. I mean, that ball he threw to Ketzelman was, I mean, that was some high heat. That was Randy Johnson, in your ear hole high heat there. And he was open. He wasn't going to score, but you were going to put yourself down inside the 10-yard line and be closer to the end zone. Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have covered it, but I mean, at the end of the day, like if you take the time out after the Dante Thornton,
pull that up a little bit to you.
Yeah, or just bring the microphone up to your mouth.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better. All
right. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. Live broadcast. We're good.
Yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately, if you take the time out after the Dante Thornton catch, and you've got 35 seconds at the 21-yard line, I guess it was, I mean, you just give yourself so many more options, instead, like you dwindle down 10 seconds off of that or so. I just felt like that it was bad clock management there at the end. I don't grasp the line of thinking there, especially when, I guess he's thinking, well, we got the defense on the ropes and we're trying to catch him off guard. But I mean, you went like a snail most of the game and really the last two games. I mean, I really think Tennessee's got to just decide that we're going to go tempo. And if it ends up resulting in a 3 and outs and, stuff. I mean, what's the difference between giving the ball? It's just extra time on the clock. I mean,
I agree with you, but you can't go tempo when you jump off sides.
Yep.
You can't go tempo when you're a legal man downfield. You can't go tempo when your offensive line is slow to get back to the line of scrimmage.
Because that's laying on the ground.
Those are things that you have. I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I go fast, but when the clock stops and the officials marking off 5 yards, you can't go fast. When the ball,
there were opportunities for them to go fast, and they chose not to. So I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you that those things hamper you, but there were other times where you had an opportunity to, and you chose not to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you got to go there, but I don't know that they have a bunch of opportunities to go fast with just the negative plays that they're having. That's putting them behind the sticks a little bit. But I'm with you 100%. I mean, I think it makes it easy. It makes it harder on the defense to get lined up and play the confusion game and all the cat and mouse stuff that they're doing, Eric. And I think that it stresses the defense from a formation lineup standpoint. It's easier for you to read stuff and just let it go play. So we'll see.
And again, you said this a lot last year and in years past. And when I was doing the rewatch today and, earlier this season, it kind of reminds me of that. I mean, you get that first down. I mean, they're going, right? I mean, it's get that first down and go. Like that big, long 53-yard run. I mean, Tennessee was running up there. He scores on the next play. That's kind of what you need to get going. But when you jump off sides or when you have an injury or whatever, it's kind of hard to get in that for sure. Let's see here. Austin, this is a good question for you. Offensive line recruiting developments. No offensive lineman that he has recruited is currently playing. The job Ellerby's done overall. Of course, I mean, it rears its ugly head in games like the Oklahoma, last night, whenever Tennessee's got protecting issues. But, right now, those young guns at Bennett Warren's, Jesse Perry's, I mean, they're not ready, right? So kind of what you see right now, excluding Larry Johnson's kind of what you're getting.
Well, the first two classes that they got were not very good. Last class, which was the Jesse Perry, Bennett Warren, William Satterwhite class, I think there's a lot of hope there. Not amongst just the coaching staff, but I think even some of those older linemen, have kind of remarked to me like, hey, these guys can play. They're good players. And so I think that, it's a developmental position. So normally guys don't come in and start on the offensive line right away. Even the best of them, that do struggle. I mean, look at the kid at Alabama, Cade Proctor. I mean, he's much better in year 2, blocking 2 Georgia Bulldogs, than he was in year 1, getting manhandled by James Pierce. I think ultimately, though, it is an indictment that here you're in year 4 and you're yet to recruit a high school kid and have him start a game. It's hard not to think that that's not an indictment on being able to develop and get a kid to the field. And so, I mean, like, they've got to be better. And I don't know if that's, saying, hey, you're not in shape, left tackle. we're going to put this young guy out there and see if he can do it. I mean, I don't think you can just stick your head in the sand and think, oh, everything's okay with the offensive line. We talked about it all offseason. We had a poster on the board, Brent, and he would, sing the praises of the offensive line and so on and so forth. And we were more hesitant with them. Again, they do some nice things, but it's not the end all be all to the offense from a standpoint of like they're the reason Tennessee's had success during that run. The other big thing is I mean, you've had Spraggins and Cooper as your starting right guard and starting center for 4 years now. I mean, like that's been, next year they can't come back. Like you're rolling out new offensive linemen next year in those spots for the first time in the Josh Heupel era in year 5.
I think it's also like, look at it like this, AP. I guess it was the 23 class. Maybe it was Nico's class. I can't remember. But you swung at an offensive tackle, you missed. You swung at another one, you missed. You swung at another one, you missed. You swung and got Sham here, and Sham's playing guard. That just kind of goes and shows you, like, a couple of classes ago, you had a lot of misses. And the guys that you feel really good about, like you just mentioned, the Warrens, the Perry, so on and so forth, like they're just now here. So,
well, you feel good about them as prospects, okay? But I mean, let's see where they are a year from now. I'm not trying to kill it, okay? But let's see what that development looks like another year from now. I mean, a prospect and a player are still two different things, and so let's see how much they develop here over the course of this season, in season, with player development practice and those types of things, and where they are in spring practice. Now, they're going to have to go out on the field in spring and go, and they're going to have to play them in the fall. But yes, they like them as prospects. We'll see what they turn into in terms of players moving forward.
Put this question up here from Ben on the screen right now. Am I wrong in thinking Nico isn't anticipating well when a lineman is about to get beat? It looks like he's thinking too much and not feeling out the game. Have you noticed anything, from your perch up there in the booth, perhaps?
I mean, I don't know what what are you supposed to anticipate? Got a snap. I think my tackle is getting ready to get beat. I mean, I don't. I think you got to keep your eyes down the field. You got to trust your linemen. Your linemen have to play better. You got to block better as running backs. You got to block better as tight ends. I mean, if you start looking at the linemen in front of you and not down the field at the receivers, you ain't going anywhere offensively.
Well, I mean, look at a guy like Jalen Milroe yesterday. I mean, Jalen Milroe has Alabama with the ball with a chance to take the lead in the fourth quarter. They're across midfield. And he sits there and holds on to it, and he has his eyes so locked in downfield that he doesn't even see the guy coming from the front side, not the back side, the front side. And he gets obliterated, fumbles, Vanderbilt recovers. Next thing you know, Commodores are taking the goalpost into the Cumberland River. So, I mean, like, and that's
do both.
That's the guy that was talking Heisman Trophy just 6 days ago, right? Yeah. Like, so, I mean, like, it happens to the best of them. So, yeah, I mean, like, Nico's got to be better. I mean, I think he'd be the first to tell you that. I mean, you have to use, as he said last night, you got to use it as fuel. But I mean, like, it starts with looking in the mirror and going, okay, this is where I can improve. Now, got to hold the offensive lineman accountable, got to hold the receivers accountable, got to hold the running backs accountable. At some point, you got to have your leaders step up, and that includes him. And even if that's out of his comfort level because he's kind of a reserve kid, they need him to be a little more diligent, I guess.
Yeah, Kevin says, has our expectations of the ball?
I think that side of a ball needs an edge. I mean, Dylan Sampson's the closest thing they have to a guy with an edge about him, right? I mean, like,
or Brew,
an edge guy. They need a guy who's got some edge. Just kind of an edge. You really would like one of your linemen just to kind of be that way, and more than they are. So we'll see.
I don't mean this the wrong way, but I think a couple of your linemen have that edge, but they use it. Like, they hit after the play and they're pushing and shoving after the play. Like if somebody hits your quarterback, absolutely go do it. But like when John Campbell's doing that, 2 plays out of every 3 and out, it's like, come on now. like that's not needed in my opinion. But I mean, I agree with you. Like you need an edge. And I mean, AP said that Brew kind of plays with that as well. AP, somebody has a food recommendation question they want to know. In Sevierville or Maryville, where would you recommend going to eat this week for the family?
Pottery House Cafe.
Oh.
Is where I would take eating Sevierville Pigeon Forge area. It's in the old mill. It's part of that family, but it's not family style like the old mill is. But yeah, Frank Allen's is a Sevierville staple.
Rusty says Kentucky's defensive line is going to take our lunch money if this doesn't improve. Forget Alabama and Georgia. Kentucky's good up front. Keon Walker, that's his name. He is a really, really good player. Kentucky's always good at the line of scrimmage. But, I mean, it's, you're going to see Alabama, obviously, before you see Kentucky. I mean, things got to improve, if and buts about it. I mean, they got to improve or Alabama's going to do what Arkansas just did, Kentucky. They got to figure some things out, AP, and it's not just the offensive line. It's the whole scheme, the three stack, the communication. I think being at home is also going to help. I mean, yeah, like worry about this one game at a time. Tennessee doesn't play well on the road a lot, and I think a lot of that has to do with the communication. But you get back home, you're playing in front of your home crowd. It is going to be quieter on offense. It's not the worst thing to try to figure some things out, obviously, on this tough stretch of games before you hit the road again. Obviously, the next big road games at Georgia.
Yeah, again, I said last night on the pod, outside of my rant, but I've always been I hate coach cliches, right? But I really do think that this is a week to week season, and it changes by the week. The Alabama situation is a perfect example of that. You just look across college football, how many teams are getting upset. Some of them are getting upset at home, but it is far easier to play at home and to be able to come home. It's easy to say here right now on Sunday night, 6 days out after watching Tennessee looked awful last night in Fayetteville and going, they got no chance. Florida's going to come in. They're going to believe they're going to beat Tennessee, and they will. They believe they own Tennessee. They're going to walk in here. It'll be a shot in the arm. They're coming off a win over UCF, and, it will be, an early punch from Florida. But at the end of the day, like, it's a new week. It's a new game. And you have to start with this game, get a win, reset, and then do it again. And as coach speak as that is, like in modern day football, it's really more evident than ever because there are more games that you see just the script kind of get flipped on you. There's more parity. And so, I mean, like, I do think coming home helps, and it'll help everybody involved, including the offense. And so they're going to have to get some stuff figured out. Starting with the offensive line, starting with Nico, and then starting with kind of think the routes, like using routes that are closer to the line of scrimmage when teams are going to sit there and drop as many as they're dropping on Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just hard to get 17 to 22-year-olds ready to play, for 12, 12 out of 14 weeks. It's hard. I mean, it just, there's so many distractions for them. I mean, all those guys, I'm sure, walked out of the locker room, got on a bus to go home. And first thing they did was to grab their phone. They looked at all the Snapchat, they answered all the messages, they got on Twitter to see what everybody was saying. There's just a lot of outside things that can affect you, and they're human. Okay. They're supposed to be that way. That's why, again, I said it earlier in the show, really good teams, championship caliber teams, find ways to win ugly when you don't play well. And Tennessee couldn't find a way to win ugly last night. They didn't play well.
And that's what I said, last night when Tennessee went up 14-3. I said it's not over by any stretch, but Tennessee's found some juice here, and good teams find ways to overcome in situations like this when they're not. Now, again, they went into the turtle shell, and Arkansas did what it was, we basically just wanted it more the last quarter than Tennessee did. But I mean, you're exactly right. Again, some want to has to kick in, and it'll kick in this week because Tennessee is in a must win. Josh Heupel, I think for the first time in his tenure, is in a must win because now you are graded on whether you make the playoff or not. The 14 playoff, it was always going to be hard to make. The 12-team playoff, much more gettable for a program like Tennessee. You want to be in the tournament, and it all starts Saturday. To me, the tournament starts Saturday. Like, Tennessee's got to win the next two. And I really believe that because I don't think you can expect them to run the table in the month of November, and I think they've got to win 10 to have a chance.
And some people said the 12-team playoff would devalue the regular season. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's teams out there playing for their playoff lives every single week. But
look at Alabama. Alabama, let's say Tennessee beats Florida Saturday. Alabama's going to roll in here, and one of them two teams is going to head to November with 2 losses. And just a week ago, Nobody would have pegged that to happen.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, a week ago, Alabama was the best team in the country, and they're rolling right along. I mean, and here's the thing too. I mean, it's about how you grow and how you get better.
Yep.
And listen, I'll give Mike Elko at Texas A&M a lot of credit. They lost a game early to Notre Dame, right, at home. Didn't handle it well. Quarterback didn't play well. They weathered the storm with a backup quarterback. I wasn't sure if he made the right choice to go back with the starter against Missouri, but he clearly did with the balance that they had. That's a football team that's better today than they were in week 1. And I think that's your goal. To have a chance to be there at the end, you got to progressively get better each and every week. And Tennessee's challenge this week is to go get better and find a way to beat Florida. But to do that, you've got to be a better football team this Saturday than you were this past Saturday. Now, I know that's coach speak, but that's reality too.
As I told you, we did a chat, Sunday morning on the GQ, and somebody said, "Can you imagine doing this chat next Sunday morning if Tennessee loses to Florida?" And I said, "Well, sure, I can imagine it. I can also imagine if Tennessee plays well and beats Florida, all it's going to do is peel back the Band-Aid and reopen the wound from the Arkansas game because everybody's going to go, oh, my God, why did we not do this a week ago? We'd be undefeated right now." So, I mean, this one's going to sting. Even if you win Saturday, it's going to sting. Now, you beat Alabama, it'll sting a little bit less. So, again, got to get the win this Saturday before you get to anything else.
Reese got a tight end question. What happened to Ethan Davis? Holden stays. Why is Kitzelman only getting targets? Kitzelman dominated the snap counts. Brent, you had it in your story. I think he played over 60. Holden stays had maybe 18 or something. How come Kitzelman so much more so than Stays and Ethan Davis?
I think Kitzelman's more physical, and I think that he generally, I don't think he played necessarily great last night, but generally I think he handles pass protection a little bit better. And they didn't get into 12 personnel. So I think that's where they were with that. Now, I think you're going to see a lot of Kitzelman and Stays this week. I think for Ethan Davis, it's about being physical, right? I mean, it's where are you as a blocker? Where are you from a physical standpoint? You were hoping he would take a step, and he's better than he was, no doubt, but I don't know that he's taken the physicality step that we all thought he might be able to take. But hey, you know what? I don't think you play him at receiver per se, but if you got injuries to Brew McCoy and Squirrel White, do you do something a little bit different with him to get a physical presence out there on the perimeter as a bit of a wide receiver? That could be something that could be creative for Tennessee if they're going to be without some of those guys for a while. And I don't know the answer to that, but if they are, I'm not saying you move him full-time there, but do you hybrid that out and make him where you almost play 3 tight ends in some ways, but he's more of a receiver than he is a tight end? That could be interesting.
Yeah, when you go into a series like Tennessee did a couple of times in the second half last night where you're going to be in 11 personnel, so you got your tight end out there. It was Kitzelman, but you're running doubles, 2 on each side, right? I mean, you're not you're not on the line, doubles. And sure, you have the tight end out there so you can bring him in and do all that flexibility. But if you're going into a series saying, all right, this is the look we want, and put Ethan Davis out there. I mean, that's literally his home base. That's my opinion. Last thing, guys, if you're Josh Heupel, of course, you settle things in the locker room last night after the loss. Today was an off day after they traveled back. What's your message? What's your message to your football team, Austin Price, Monday when they get in to watch the film and before they hit the practice field on Tuesday? What's the message about trying to leave that in Fayetteville and focusing on the Gators here in Knoxville?
I mean, I just think it's just, guys, I mean, let this feeling sink in. We can't have that feeling again. I know you guys have heard the last 48 hours and, but we have to move on. We have to, remember it, but at the same time, move on from it and, get ready for a Florida team that, again, has a little bit of momentum. And Billy Napier, until they fire him, is still going to keep coaching for his coaching life.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's about right now. Let's not worry about what's coming down the pike. Let's worry about this moment, where our feet are at day by day. Let's go get better. We have not taken the strides that we wanted to take. We didn't take them in the open date. Josh Heupel sat in that emotional locker room in Norman, Oklahoma, and he talked about, hey, it wasn't finished yet. There's a lot of work to do. They had to grow. Didn't look like they grew very much in the open date. They got to continue to grow and things. And then I think you've got to figure out, Eric, how you're going to answer some of that 3-3 stack stuff. How do you help the quarterback How do you solve that puzzle for him with some of that 3 safety, 2 safety high? Is he in the box, out the box? What are we doing there? I think you've got to unmuddle those waters, if you will, to make that a little more, try to make that a little more clear for Nico as you move forward. Because I don't know if Florida's going to play that, but Tennessee's going to see that look plenty
every bit.
I mean, they're going to see that
until they show that they can beat it.
Yeah, they're going to see that.
And at the basis, you've got to communicate. You've got to ID. There cannot be situations where the running back doesn't even look right when it's overloaded that way, and you miss a block and you get your quarterback sacked. Got to figure that stuff out. We're going to figure some things out here this week before Tennessee and Florida get going. We got plenty of stuff over at Volquest.com. A lot of reaction from Tennessee, Arkansas, but we're going to flip that script. First glance coming up tomorrow. Everything you need to know about Florida, while the Rocky Top Rewind coming up. Josh Heupel players will meet with the media on Monday, so a lot of Tennessee Gators talk. Rivalry week, it is here, and no better place to get caught up on all that and get ready for the game than over at VolQuest.com. Big thank you, as always, to our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T and Trial Lawyers. That phone number is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185, and online at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP.com. For Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, I am Eric Kane. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on the Rocky Top Rewind every Sunday night during football season.